Thanks, Jamie.
Okay. Yeah, of course. So the main things that we've been working on since our last meeting, which our last regular meeting was a while ago at this point. But we've been working on the secondary data PWAP for the residential rain garden project that's going to be happening in Norwalk. Um, I have been talking with Jeff Stedman some about trying to create a sort of not database, but a collection of some of the old documents that we don't really have access to anymore. And I know he's working hard on trying to put that together for us. So hopefully he comes in a bit and can maybe share more about that with you. Um,
For
I've
the
also
old,
had
sorry, Jamie, old
sorry.
NRWI documents or
I believe that is the focus of this. That's my understanding. I assume with his position, he also has some access to just historic Norwalk documents that would maybe be useful to the group as well, so we can take a look at those and kind of decide
good.
how to go about that.
Good.
Um, and then I have talked to Dick some about PFAS testing in the area and just the continued work that he and Louise are doing. Um, and I wanted to update you guys. This is my fault. The delay is on my end, but the YouTube video for the PFAS discussion is up. We do have the link to it. Just waiting to hear back from Deep on when it's okay to share out. So hopefully that will be soon. And the other main thing is that the contribution letters actually have gone out now. So hopefully you guys have received those. Awesome. All right. That's all I have for now.
Cool. Thanks, Jamie. I actually didn't know that those had gone out. So thank you for doing that. Um, the only other thing I'll add on is that we do have the Long Island Sound Futures Fund grant. I know this is kind of bleeding into grant updates, but uh, that grant is to do the green infrastructure projects with three of the municipalities that are in the watershed. So New Canaan, Wilton, and Norwalk. Um, Gentle nudge that we haven't really selected the projects that each of those municipalities wants to move forward with. So we can do that and then hopefully do installation construction in the spring with each of those towns. Um, so that piece is kind of sitting there a little bit too, and Jamie and I are going to start probably nudging a little bit more to keep that one moving. I think that's the only thing that I wanted to add to kind of the reporting for us. The other active grant is from CTC grant and their resilience team, and that's why Rick and Ryan are actually here today. It's super exciting news because members of this group know that our existing watershed-based plan is woefully out of date and not very useful for purposes of anything. So they have been subcontracted out to do the enhancement and updates to the plan. I won't say too much more about what they're going to do because I think that they're going to tell you. So I'll actually turn it over to, I'm going to presume, Ryan, you're going to lead off with some conversation, and I'll leave it to you.
Yes, great. Thanks, Chris. And I have a few slides. If it's helpful, I can share my screen.
Yeah, you should be able to, no problem.
Okay, let me see if I can. Ability to do that.
Should be a green arrow at the bottom of the screen.
Ah, there we are. Sorry, I'm a little rusty on my Zoom.
Yeah, no worries. Like we talked about in our meeting, different platforms, everything's in different places.
Right. All right, let's see if you can you see my slide okay?
Not yet.
All right, how about now?
Looks good.
Okay. Well, thank you everyone for making some room on your agenda today for us. We just wanted to take a few minutes to introduce ourselves. We're really excited to be working on this project with the Southwest Conservation District and through the Sea Grant program at UConn. A little bit about myself. I'm a Cape Cod-based land use planner. I've worked at the regional and local level doing a lot of multi-jurisdictional watershed-based plans. Our issues here are nutrient loading. We have TMDLs that we've been working to addressed for many years. And I think we can bring a very similar process to the update of the Norwalk River Watershed-based plan. So we are excited to be the consultant on hire for this. And let me just walk you through a little bit more about who we are. So Rick and I are here today because we're the core team that's really kicking off this process with the development of the QUAP, which I'll get into a little bit more. But our project director is Dan Rakowski, Connecticut-based. Joe Canis and Rick and John Block are all also Connecticut-based. Emily, Sharon, and myself, we work in Massachusetts primarily. Sharon and I are both planners and bring a lot of community engagement to watershed-based planning efforts. Emily is a technical expert, very well versed in stormwater management and water quality assessments, as is Joe. And Rick is our QUAP expert for this project. So our project understanding and approach is that we're working in partnership really with the Southwest Conservation District to update the 1998 plan and the action plan that was updated several years after that. But again, our understanding is that many of this is woefully out of date. So we'll be taking a fresh look at a lot of the actions and current best management practices to deal with what the water quality issues and concerns are. We will be working to facilitate stakeholder engagement and workshops in addition to our technical approach, which really is focused on evaluating water quality goals, objectives, and actions. We will assess that action plan and those strategies through the Persists framework as advised and directed by our Sea Grant partners. And again, this is not an exact order. This isn't a linear process. The QUAP was task 3 in the RFQ or RFP, but that is our initial first step, is to develop that, have it reviewed and approved by EPA before we can really proceed with the stakeholder engagement, data collection and assessment and analysis. And we will work with the Southwest Conservation District to prepare the final plan. Again, sort of dividing responsibilities based on the technical best management practices and approaches, and then some of the more public engagement and ongoing monitoring and efforts and processes that I know you're all very well familiar with and we're still learning about. Again, the more detailed rundown of the scope as I've just described. We will be facilitating project management with the help of Southwest Conservation District as well, taking meeting notes, coordinating monthly meetings. I think once we get the QUAP identified or submitted and reviewed and approved by EPA, then we'll be able to touch base in February about what that schedule will look like more. We've been told that it's a 2 to 3 month time frame for having a QUAP submitted, reviewed, and approved. I'm just ahead of myself on every slide. So again, we've been identifying data sources that I think Chris has been in putting us in touch with some of you that have been collecting, monitoring data for many years. We've identified those, the types of data that are available. Rick can speak to that in much more detail if there are any questions about it. But at this point, it's just an identification step. And then once we have the go-ahead under the QUAP, we can begin collecting that data, analyzing, assessing, and beginning the engagement piece. And that's really all we wanted to just bring to you today, is just quick introductions and overview of the project, where we are in the process, and certainly take any questions that you may have or any comments you may have as well.
Thank you. It's very, very exciting to have Tighe Bond, excuse me, tackling the plan. So, and yes, Jeff, did you raise your hand?
Well, thank you very much. Might I just make a few comments, Alexis, or just at the outset? Yeah, I'm representing the Norwalk Harbor Management Commission, on the committee and have for some time. And the Harbor Commission was much involved in the original development of the watershed-based plan. And as you know, this was one of the first in Connecticut, if not the first. And the reason was because of the value of the shellfish resources in Norwalk Harbor and the concern about bacteria and runoff pollution in the watershed and the impact on the shellfish resources. And as you probably are aware, there was a very robust public involvement, numerous meetings at Wilton and the high school and the library. And what I was doing is assembling some of the old materials from the original effort, including the news articles and the public information materials that we put together, so that when we start the work, we see where we began, and help to chart where we're going. There are two recent efforts that I think are most significant as well, that were both sponsored by the Harbor Commission and the Shellfish Commission. One was a water quality analysis relating the samples upstream in the river with bacteria samples taken by the Bureau of Aquaculture in the harbor. And we did a statistical analysis to show that the rise of the identification of the bacteria increases in the lower urbanized part of the watershed were directly related to the increased bacteria in the harbor, but not in the upper watershed. And then the other project that we're most proud of has to do with the analysis of the runoff from the Yankee Doodle Bridge, the I-95 bridge. And that was the culmination of years of discussions and sometimes conflicts with the DOT, that the runoff from the bridge deck was adversely affecting the harbor. And it took this study that we did to finally convince DOT that they should revise their update or their refurbishment plans for the I-95 bridge, resulting in capturing 80% of the 80% of the bridge deck runoff is now captured. We thought that was a major improvement and hoped would serve as an example for other highway infrastructure improvements. The other question I have, and we talked about this when the Watershed Initiative was sort of reestablished a few years ago. What's the role of and of course, we had a good discussion about this. How is the plan to be used, and what's the role of this committee? And of course, there was discussions. You had the different municipalities, and the committee didn't want to take, a forceful stand on some of these issues because of concern about alienating one of the communities that had certain interests in the projects. So that's one consideration, and also, your pollutant loading methodology or method. The Sasko Brook Watershed Initiative, I think, is quite good, that some of us were involved with. And as a result of that, the Aspetuck Health District and the Darien Health Department, they were working on a study, the microbial source tracking analysis, using the DNA analysis to identify the sources of bacterial pollution in the watershed. Rather than just relying on the assumption method of the pollutant loading. And I know Nikki may be able to talk about this because she's working on a pilot project now in Sasko Brook that hopefully will lead to determining the effectiveness of the cost effectiveness and the functional effectiveness of these methods. So thinking that might be something you'd want to address too. And then here's my own thought, that whether this has to do with how this is to be used, is how you address this concept of resiliency that everybody seems to talk about now. And that, historically we all called it floodplain management. And my personal feeling is that the concept is being misused now. And it's being used to be able to argue for increased development in the flood-prone areas rather than to guide development away from the areas and to reduce the vulnerability of existing development. So there's a lot of things that we'd like to be, the Harbor Commission, the Shellfish Commission. I'll stop talking. I'm so sorry to go on. But this means a lot to us, because we were involved right from the beginning with the stream walks that started the project, and with the development of the original plan. And again, we're assembling a lot of the background data And what we also would share with you, the Norwalk Harbor Management Plan has a number of policies for protecting and enhancing water quality. And I think those could also help form a basis for your development of your watershed-based policies in the plan. So thank you so much, and I'll stop talking. But again, with Nikki's work with the microbial source stuff, and also Mark Cooper from the what used to be the Westport Weston Health District, and now is the Aspetuck District. He's done a tremendous amount of research on the microbial source tracking methods as well. And I think you'd want to, take advantage of or benefit from his research. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, I think one of the things that the watershed-based plan should recognize is kind of what its purpose is. There's the kind of the EPA watershed-based plan that's connected to 319 and potential 319 funds. And that's kind of at the core of this, but then it's also kind of a more less kind of, it has elements of kind of just guidance for this Norwalk River Watershed Initiative committee and what our focus and priorities should be moving forward. So, right.
Well, the comment about resiliency is a really interesting point. I think we can try to address that because resiliency of the watershed is different from resiliency of the landward assets adjacent the watershed. So I think we can help tease that out into a definition that serves the plan's needs.
Great. Thank you, Ryan.
Alexis, Louise had a question in the chat. She's excited about the project and that the initial plan had several projects for capturing stormwater. And she's wondering about a potential list of new projects to be included for town in the update. And Ryan, I think I had mentioned something about this too when we chatted a little bit ago. So I'll kick that over to you for a response.
Sure. I mean, I think part of our data collection efforts are going to be an existing conditions analysis to see what initiatives are currently underway. We're really going to want to get a handle on the different approaches communities are taking, what sort of traction they have. So I think we'll be reaching out to each individual community and Chris, relying on you to help us identify the best contacts for how to pull that information together.
One thing we had mentioned when we spoke last was that in the 2011 update, there was an action list, and you'd mentioned that, it would be useful to hear the information from the knowledge from this group about like which might be feasible to continue and which are no longer feasible based on changes in the preceding years. That's a place to look, but hearing from Chris that a lot of those probably aren't feasible to pursue. Municipal MS4 plans is another place where we'd want to look to try to, leverage sites that potentially been identified and also just otherwise help, get stormwater BMP locations retrofits into that process as well. So yeah, definitely more to discuss with this group in the towns.
Rick, I'm glad you mentioned the MS4 reports. That was one of the things that I have on my checklist to ask about. And I know that Norwalk and New Canaan, it looks like you have your reports posted online. Is that the best place to download those files, or is there a better way that you could share those reports out to us?
That's probably the best way. I mean, Norwalk's will change. For now, that's the best place.
Sounds good. I haven't had a chance to look at some of the other towns, but I know that was some of the documentation and reports that Ryan and Rick were looking to gather. So just wanted to ask
I
how we had you.
believe members of our team have prepared some of those reports, so we can So that's a help.
Yeah.
Hopefully a direct source.
Right.
Okay, so you have just begun the QAP process, but haven't yet submitted anything to EPA for approval. You're literally just getting your feet on the ground.
Yes, so we're a couple weeks
Okay.
in. We were awarded the contract in late October. We kicked off with our Sea Grant partners and Chris and Jamie a couple weeks ago, and then Rick is working on the crop now. And
Okay.
I won't put him on the spot for a timeline, but we're anticipating a February timeframe, maybe late February, if all goes well with the EPA review of really getting the rest of the project up and running.
Okay, excellent. Thanks for confirming that portion of the timeline. All right. Any other questions for our Tighe Bond guests?
Yeah, just one. So forgive me if I missed it, but is the watershed-based plan just going to be an update, or are you guys going to basically redo it all from scratch because a lot has changed since the 90s? What's the approach on that aspect?
Well, it's called, I mean, it's been termed an update, but given the date of the plan and the action items associated with it, if it's all really just a toss, then we'll toss it and note, I think in the plan narrative, what drove us to make that decision. So, I mean, we're anticipating all new GIS land mapping analyses. We're anticipating a lot of new water quality monitoring data to review. So I think it's we'll follow the plan format as much as it makes sense to, but I'm anticipating a lot of new information.
Yeah, perfect.
I guess the scope, however, is not like full new plan. So it is kind of focused on a couple of elements. There may be parts like hearing from this group that there's, historic documentation and past reporting, that could certainly be appended, be helpful to include in one place. So, it's easier to find back for people in this organization, but it is a limited scope. So it's really kind of focused on the water quality.
Yeah, that's a great
Right.
comment and reminder for us all. I mean, just given the budget, we did have to limit our scope to really the technical aspects of updating the plan. But we're hoping through our partnership with Chris and Jamie that a lot of the plan elements that need to be written can be provided to us through this group's effort, through their work, and we can incorporate it into a final. But we're not actually tasked with writing the plan and cover to back.
Thanks, Jeff.
I'm sorry I missed the beginning, but has the scope been finalized, or are you still working on that? And can we review the scope? Is it available for us to review now?
So we submitted a proposal in response to the Yukon Sea Grants RFP request, and our scope is contained within that proposal, and we were awarded the contract based on that scope. So I'd be happy to share that.
If you could share the scope with us, I think that might be helpful.
Sure.
Perhaps, and so the sharing of information would go through Jamie and Chris, or how would that work?
I think that's probably the easiest way to do it, just so there's one sort of point of contact for both directions. Otherwise,
Yeah.
who knows who said what things and what documents gone to which person, just to make it more organized, I guess. So Jamie or myself can kind of act as a pass-through, I guess, of material.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. So I think anything else for regarding the plan? Future opportunities for discussion.
Yeah, great.
All right. Well, thank you both.
Thank you for having us. Nice to meet you all, and we look forward to working with you on this.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, we'll move on to the agenda, and you're welcome to stay. The continued or old business. If anyone wants to give an update, you can just raise your hand and give a quick update to your municipality or organization's updates, if any.
I can do a couple of updates. We are working through the contract phase with Deep on their Urban Waters Initiative project that we're working on with them. So that's great. It all appears to be moving forward. So it's kind of like a 3-component project, which will involve talking with community members and figuring out just what's their take on water quality and water in general. How do they use it? How do they want to be using it? What do they think is a problem? And kind of just figuring out from the community what they want to see done, which is similar to what Chris and Jamie are working on with their community impact fund, but slightly different. I think some of the questions that we can ask are a little different. And then a secondary component will be working with hopefully high school students and maybe some of the elementary school or middle school students in town. So the high school students would help us clean out some litter booms that we would place at 3 different outfalls in Norwalk in EJ communities, and have them collect the trash and collect some data on what we're finding there, and then having the younger students do some kind of art installation project. It's unclear what that will look like yet, whether that'll be a sculpture that we can put at Betts Park or something, or whether that will be just individual art projects that maybe we can hang up at Town Hall or here at Earth Place or somewhere that the community can view it and understand how the trash is impacting our waters. And then the third component is a rain barrel distribution program. So we've got some funding there to educate and encourage residents to just install these rain barrels at free of charge to them. All they'd have to do is maintain them. So that's working on going through. We're still in the contract phase, and it'll be a 2-year project. So we're waiting for that. And then our monitoring season has also ended. So our final report will be coming out December 5th, I think is the date. That's a Thursday. Yeah, December 5th. So we'll release that, and the towns will get a pre-release copy of it, just so you're aware. The river did okay, but not great. It's definitely a little worse than prior years as far as meeting state criteria. We think overall we saw that across the county, that really sites that had been passing were now not meeting state criteria. And we think that has to do a lot with the early rains that we had this summer, which increased bacteria concentrations more in May and June than we typically see. And so I think it skewed those geometric means over the course of the monitoring season. So normally we have lower bacteria concentrations early in the season, which just helps kind of keep things lower even when they spike in the midsummer when temperatures get high. So that was a little interesting, but we did see similar trends across the county, whether water bodies were historically bad or historically good. We saw an increase kind of everywhere. And we're also getting close to being done with our long-term data analysis project as well. So hopefully in the new year, we'll be able to have some presentations about what we found related to our long-term trends in bacteria related to land use, climate conditions, and demographics. So we're pretty excited about that.
That'd be awesome.
That's what we got.
Thank you.
Nikki, I have a question. You said the contract with Deep is still underway. Do you know when you anticipate starting the Urban Waters project with them?
I don't. So I filled out one piece of paperwork, and Emma said that she was going to kind of push the contract up the chain to get approvals and edits from them. I'm not really sure how long that's going to take. So hopefully it'll start relatively soon in the new year. The reason being is both Casey and I at Harbor Watch in our 4-person team, 2 of us are pregnant and due in April. So we will be gone all summer. So the team will be, kind of inundated with a lot of just our normal stuff. So to add this project on top of that will be interesting. So hopefully we can kind of do a bunch up front and then kind of pick it up again in the fall and next year.
Awesome. I believe there's a congrats if I did the math right with what you just said there.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And the reason I was asking is I wonder if there's a way to maybe dovetail some of the outreach for the urban waters piece with what Rick and Ryan would be doing for stakeholder for the watershed-based plan outreach efforts.
Yes, I was like thinking when they had mentioned that they were going to do that. Yeah, when they had mentioned that they were going to do that, I thought that maybe there would be some overlap, at least in some of the questions or demographics that we were looking at targeting. Our section is, or our project is supposed to target EJ communities specifically. And I get the vibe from the state that they would like us to kind of focus on one community, but if we can't get from just one, that we can do more. But a lot of the work that I imagine the Rick and Ryan will want to be doing will also include Wilton and Ridgefield, since they're part of the watershed as a whole. So there's definitely more outreach, I think, from them.
Yeah.
In our meetings with the Long Island Sound folks, they were definitely looking to document EJ outreach. So, also, to the extent that we can include that as part of what's going on, I think they would be very happy to hear that.
Sounds good.
Yeah, thanks.
Excellent. Yes, Jeff.
Just a couple of other thoughts. Has someone from DEEP been designated to work with us on the watershed-based plan, or is that still to be determined?
I don't know that there's a point person, Jeff, but Emma is kind of the NRWI liaison from DEEP, so I imagine that'll probably be part of her role or tasks for the watershed-based plan as well. Since it's not being funded by DEP, there's probably no conflict where there had been first, like when we did a 319 application, we'd have to kick Emma out of our meeting, right? So I don't think there's any issues with that for this project because it's from Sea Grant and UConn.
We've been, Harbor Watch has been sitting on like the committee for building the Bruce Brook watershed based plan, which was a 319 funded watershed based plan. And the contact from DEEP that we had helping was Susan Peterson, because they hadn't really assigned anyone to our area yet. So if they are going to assign anyone, I wouldn't be surprised if it's her.
And then at the Sasko Brook meeting a couple of weeks ago, we talked about the USGS effort to sample nutrients, and they had 2 stations in Norwalk Harbor, I believe. And there was still a discussion about whether that data could be put in the form of a story, if that's the right word, or information that the public could understand, rather than just giving the data to DEEP. And we were wondering about the status of that. Is any of the information collected by the EPA relevant to what we're going to be working on with the watershed-based plan? And can the watershed-based plan help tell the story of that nutrient data that was collected? I guess we don't know that yet. But previously, my understanding was that the focus of the watershed-based plans was on bacteria input. And now, little that I know is that talking about now moving on to understanding the nutrient loading. So I don't know that I think we want to know what the result of that EPA testing was. And then also we talked the other day, Nikki, about the Save the Sound grade of F in the Upper Harbor, and what that's based on, and how to address that. That's another question that I don't know the answer to. And then if we're talking about things that are significant going on in the harbor, the Eversource project as part of the Walk Bridge has begun drilling under the harbor. I don't know if they've finished the drill yet, but that's underway. And then the big project and the big opportunity is the private purchase of the former power plant at Manresa Island, with the intent to turn that into a public space. And that requires environmental remediation, but that's a fascinating project to think ahead to, and the impact that will have on the character of the Norwalk shoreline for generations to come if the goals of that project can be realized. Those are the only things I wanted to mention as updates. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else? All right. No. Okay. Chris, did you have anything else that you wanted to add? Good.
I don't think so. I mean, I think we hit on any of the district Norwalk specific stuff with the other grants that we're working on. Obviously, as we get our QAP approved for that list gift grant, we're going to be looking for help in Norwalk for neighborhood selections. But I don't think there's anything else. Jamie, is there anything else that I'm missing or we're forgetting?
I would just say, I mean, I think you mostly touched on this, but I would just say that I might be reaching out to some of you, like the municipal contacts, just to help us kind of wrangle some of the documents that might be necessary. Beyond just MS4, there's quite a few that we might be reaching out about. So,
yeah. And you're always welcome to come down to my office. Behind me, I have boxes inherited from the previous watershed coordinator. So you're welcome to come into City Hall and go through it and use our scanners to digitize troves.
Thank you.
Of information. And then obviously, yes, in any of the recent studies, we can get to you easily.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, any new business? I mean, I think we covered a lot of new business, so, which is all good. I don't see anyone from the public.
I can say one thing about new business. Yes. I think most of you probably got an invitation already, and if you haven't, I apologize, but you're still invited. On December 5th at 5:30, we are doing our Harbor Watch Water Quality Symposium. We have some students presenting data that they collected in our fall program. Most of it's going to be focused on Westport watersheds, just because they were easier for our students to get to after school before it got dark. But we will have some kids presenting some really cool fish data on the Norwalk Harbor. So you're definitely invited. If you need me to resend the RSVP link, let me know. We just want to get a head count so we get the right amount of snacks. Snacks are very important. We're very food motivated over here at Harbor Watch.
RSVP right now. Thank you. Yeah, highly recommend the Harbor Watch event. It's always a lot of fun to talk to the high school students about their projects and their ideas, and eat the snacks, as Chris noted. So. All right. I think we're nearing the end. And yes, congratulations, Nikki.
Thank you.
That's very exciting.
Yeah. Alexis, I think we're at the end of I was just going to say, do we want to keep the next meeting that December 19th date, or do you want to try to move it earlier in the month so that we don't get lost in holiday shopping chaos?
Not that I'm the most important person, but my last day of work is the 17th of December, so I won't be. If we keep it on the 19th, I will not be able to attend.
Wait, what do you mean
you're
you're not going to come to this meeting just because you're not working? I mean,
they closed the preschool way early, so I gotta be home with my kid. Aw, shucks.
Did I hear correctly, Nikki, that you're going to be doing something differently, or did I miss that?
So me and Casey are both pregnant. So
Oh,
we're both due at the end of April. So our team of 4 is going to be dropping down to a team of 2, hopefully 3. We're looking to bring in an educator, but yeah, it'll be a small team and our interns doing all of our water quality monitoring work next summer because I will be on maternity leave.
no, that's wonderful. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So Thursday, December 12th?
I was just about to say the same date. It's wide open on my calendar. That way we don't lose Nikki.
That's good. I think that's a very good reason to move a meeting up a week. Gotta squeeze out as much of you as we can.
Right.
Okay. Well, that sounded kind of like consensus. So
I didn't hear any objection.
The 12th, both for Nikki and just to give a little bit more buffer between the Christmas season.
Right.
That's good. All right. I think that's it. So we'll see each other in 4 weeks on the dot.
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks,
Thanks everybody. Yep.
Thanks, Rick.
Thanks, Rick.
Nice meeting you, Rick.
Mhm.